One is willing to work until they just collapse. And the other one's like, I don't know if it takes that. Not necessarily bad or wrong, just different. And then you have, on that same side, the generation that is recovering better. Mm-hmm. They're not as beat up.
Only thing he understands is if I keep working harder, I'm going to keep getting better. And I'll tell you what, I would put my money on him being a better bodybuilder in 5 to 10 years than someone who is overanalyzing.
You see lines in him from the side there, and that hamstring looks nutty. That side shot is pretty impressive.
I have a lot of experience with EQ. I think
you're talking to 3 guys that know a lot. We've done a lot of EQ. We've done a lot of EQ. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with coaches Skip Hill, Andrew Barry, myself, Scott McNally, and we are brought to you by TrueNutrition.com. Use our code Think over there for all your basic bodybuilding supplements like intra-workout. You can get some pre-workout. You get some post-workout protein. Get the Team Skip blend. Use our code THINK for additional savings. We're brought to you by SupplementSource.ca for our Canadians. They've got great deals that change week to week on short-dated, label change products, stuff like that. Of course, we're brought to you by Patreon. I've got a couple Patreon questions. We might even have a physique critique if this guy gets them sent over to me by the end of the show. If not, he'll be in for next time. And yeah, guys, we've got a bunch of stuff, and we've got a fun topic we're going to talk about regarding like training to failure. Like, do we need it really? But before we get into that, and I think we're going to try to get into like some real take home tips for you that you can apply to your training today. But before we get into that, Andrew, we have a freaking like late entry here to the Olympia. This Behrouz, I don't really know him. Behrouz Tabani?
I believe that's how you pronounce it. Yeah, he just we just got word about 5 hours ago that his visa cleared. He's coming over from Iran, and he's going to be competing in the 2025 Olympia. Now, the problem is this guy has not been able to get on the Olympia stage, though he's qualified numerous times. And everyone's always said, man, once he qualifies and is able to compete, he's going to shake up the lineup. And I really do think he is going to shake up this lineup because, I mean, he's got everything. He's got big arms. He's got flowing quads. He's got a very small waist. Might have the smallest waist out of all the guys in the Olympia this year that we're considering for top 10. I don't see him finishing outside of the top 6. You know,
wow.
And I would have said that last year. I would have said that, you know, after I saw him win the Dubai, he beat a good William Bonnick.
And that's where he qualified, huh?
That's where he qualified, yeah. And he's been qualified for several years in a row. It's just he can't get that visa. And he finally got the visa, I guess, earlier today. I mean, look how big his delts are in that most muscular. Like that's, that, to me, that's like a throwback like Kevin Levrone type most muscular where the waist is still really small, round bowling ball delts, great set of arms. So who knows if this late
He's very complete. He's very complete, isn't he?
He's very complete. I don't know if this, you know, I assume he was preparing every single day as if he was going to get the visa. I hope he was, so we get to see the best because I think we already see all the athletes that we've been talking about, you know, the Nick, Derek's, the Samsons, the Hotties. We did a preview show a couple of weeks ago. They seem to all be coming in at their best. You know, I really feel that this year's Olympia, we are going to see every athlete close to or at their best that they've ever been, you know, and we're talking guys into the 10th, 11th, 12th placings too. So yeah, I'm excited. Where do I see him finish? It's so hard to say, you know, in no particular order. I would have my top 6 being Nick, Behrouz, Derek, Samson, Hottie, gun to my head, Andrew or Martin. It's hard to say, you know? And I'm probably forgetting someone else that's really good too.
Any back shots from this or no?
I could put one together real quick.
I just want to now at the risk of stereotyping or maybe it's profiling, maybe it's not stereotyping, but
everybody's waiting for Skip to say something really like
really off. Yeah, exactly. And you know I'm hesitating because I'm talking slower than I normally do. Normally I'm a mile a minute. Am I the only one who sees kind of a Hottie-esque? I know he's from Iran too. That's where I'm going to get in trouble. But that front most muscular, smaller waist, yeah. I don't know about height or anything else. I can't tell height when I
I think he's about 5'10".
So
Okay.
on the taller side
Yeah.
for a bodybuilder.
I see it in the front. Again, arguably a better, maybe a bit different midsection.
Yeah.
But I don't know that I'm not seeing it subconsciously, knowing he's from Iran. He's got the, darker hair, darker complexion, darker features, that sort of thing. Oh, okay, here we go.
Here's a back shot. Now, I wouldn't say that his back is absolutely blowing me away, but I'm not gonna say that it's bad either. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like he's got muscle there.
Honestly,
I'll be interested to see how he stacks up.
This is not the best back shot I've ever seen of him. So I think if you see him really open up the lats, it's a sight to behold. Yeah, I just sent you another shot too that I think his side shot, like he's not balanced in his back shot. One arm's a little higher than the other. He's a little off balance. The only thing I think that's weird about this shot is what he does with his glutes. And you'll know this if you watch him on stage, some of the videos, he kind of flexes them, then he tucks them, and then he unflexes them again. I wish he would just pick one and stick with it. But he's got massive, massive glutes. But put up that side.
Yeah, he really does, man. He really does. And you see lines in him from the side there, and that hamstring looks nutty. That side shot is pretty impressive.
Yeah, he's got some of the wackiest hamstrings. This video doesn't really show it. From the glute to the hamstring to the knees are usually really striated like that. So the detail level is on another level, not to play on words.
Yeah, when your glutes and your hamstrings arguably take up slightly more than 50% of the size from the side, that says something. Well, it could say you have weak quads, which normally it does, like if it were me. But when you see that, that's a crazy, wow. That's pretty.
And honestly, I don't think
crazy.
what you were saying a minute ago, Skip, I don't think it's like a racist thing or whatever to say people from
but someone can
area.
spin it that way. That's more what I don't mean it. It's intent versus perception. And let's just say that when look, the industry knows this. When the Iranian bodybuilders don't do very well, they lose their shit.
Yeah.
There is that. There's a little bit of a different mentality, at least in the outspoken Iranian fans versus anybody else.
Well, in case in point, last year Samson won. Nobody in the U.S. burned anything, broke anything down, or had anything real negative to say about it. And they said, okay, everyone was at their best on that day, theoretically, and the judges thought Samson won. I think people could have argued, said, well, I like Derek or I liked Hottie because of this, but nobody was like, someone got robbed or they completely screw or someone's getting paid for this for this judging. There's no backroom dealing or anything like that. It was you could buy the reasoning they gave it to Samson.
I don't want to go down a rabbit hole here, but let me ask you guys this question because I think it's important and the viewers can probably relate. Does the bodybuilding industry freak out, the troll sector and everything else, if Nick wins? I think it's possible only because he hasn't been there before.
I think a lot of people are behind him more than
I do think that
ever.
a lot more
More than ever.
Yeah, more than ever. I completely agree with you. He's been pulling fans back into his camp, since his last
put it
show
this
or
way.
two. So
there's been a lot of polls going out on people's Instagram stories. People that are good retired former bodybuilders like Ian Valliere and Antoine Vaillant, who's not retired but not competing right now. And I've been kind of keeping an eye on them. And overwhelmingly, and when I say overwhelmingly, I mean the number of times these polls are showing Nick being the winner, pretty high. Like 42% of the fans are saying Nick's going to win. And then the next would be like, say, Samson at 31%. And then it trickles down from there. And, there's a lot to be said about that I think that says he's kind of the people's champ right now. Maybe 5 years ago or 4 years ago, the attitude would have shifted a little bit. It would have been, I want to see someone else win without judging the actual physique. But I do think, as you pointed out, Scott, I think the fans are behind him. They want to see him. They've kind of fallen in love with his personality and what he shared through his Instagram and social media. They relate to him. And, I'm not the judges.
He
know anything
became
about
very
that.
humanized too. You know what I mean? Like just we saw him really at his worst, and whether you loved him or hated him at the time, it's like we've seen him turn that around. It's hard not to love the underdog, the comeback story. I really do. And I've thought this man since he turned things around that he already is going to be the people's champ, whether no matter what happens. Now, I don't know how it works. If you win the show, can you still be voted people's champ? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that,
right.
Does that work out that way?
I think so because, well, okay, Arnold won, 5 years in a row? And I feel like he was also still the people's champ because good looking guy from California, just, I feel like, and he was charismatic and he'd already done a little bit of acting. So he had some name recognition. So I do think he was kind of already the people's champ going into those Olympia wins. And then he wins. Bumstead. I mean, that's a great example. Yeah. Bumstead was already a people's champ in a sense. Because
I mean, also relatable. I was kind of thinking about like the actual, because they give that prize away on stage.
Yeah, can they actually do that?
Yeah. Would they actually be able to?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's usually someone else, like Branch Warren gets it, or somebody else who was like third. They come in peeled, but they just don't have the tools that it takes.
Yeah. When I'm thinking of people's champ, I'm not thinking of like some silly award that the producers or whatever of the promoters of the show are putting together based off of.
Well, they put it together. They put it together, but then they let you vote. So you text in, and they take those numbers by the end of the night. So I guess it's really still up to the people, but it always just seems like the people's champ ends up being somebody other than the guy who won.
Yeah. So then does that tell you?
Yeah,
maybe it's rigged. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to go the other way. I was going to say that the people in the industry choose their person not necessarily based on the same criteria that the judging panel does. I mean, we have our favorites. It's relatable. Does he have a structure like me? Do I want to look like him? I know I've said for years, even when he's getting along and Phil and I were friends, his physique, or the Kai's physique, was more appealing to me. If God came down and said you have to walk around the rest of your life looking like one or the other, I'd be like, oh, I'll walk around looking like Kai. I already got the tan. I'm good to go. But his physique was more appealing to me. The thicker lats, the arguably, better shoulder to waist ratio. Again, arguably. But Phil, I couldn't deny the fact that, Phil had the better physique. I wasn't losing any sleep over the fact that he was beating Kai. Did Kai ever beat him? I don't even know. No. I don't think he did, ever.
No.
So, all right. Well, listen, we got a bunch of stuff, and we had a fun topic that I'm excited to get into. Skip, how did you term this before the show? You were like the old generation versus the new generation.
Yeah, which generation is right? Which one is smarter?
Yeah,
really. Yeah, but I mean, I'm sitting on the fence. I'm sitting on the fence looking at both sides now.
Okay.
Because I'm sitting on the fence and I'm looking at the old head side, my generation, and I see, work ethic, when in doubt, do more, whether it's training, cardio, volume, dieting, gear, you name it. Then I look over on the other side of the fence, the new generation, and I see moderation. And I don't want to say that they don't have a work ethic. All I'm saying is if you compare the two, one is willing to work until they just collapse. And the other one's like, I don't know if it takes that. Not necessarily bad or wrong, just different. And then you have on that same side, the generation that is recovering better. They're not as beat up. They don't have what I call old man-itis issues, which, any type of tendonitis is an overuse.
They're also 20 years younger. So
good point. Sure. and that factors and that's why this makes this so complicated and nuanced. So then I'm sitting on the fence and I'm going, okay, this is how I train. This is how you're supposed to train. You're supposed to train her. I don't know. Are we progressing, the old heads? And obviously time plays into this too. But did we progress at the same rate when we were younger with this same mentality versus the reps in reserve, arguably not training to failure, that sort of thing. So I'm looking at both sides and I'm going, I find myself within the last year or so paying more attention to the newer generation, because I'm thinking, man, I shouldn't dismiss this so quickly. Maybe they're onto something. And I've got my own reasons where I'm starting to see it, and I'm starting to gravitate toward that side. The problem is it takes a serious rewiring. Like it's like if I'm an electrician, I've had to go into my brain and essentially renovate this entire high rise by stripping out all the old wiring and bringing in new wiring and redoing it again, because we condition ourselves and program ourselves a certain way for so long that it is hard. It is hard to break that. And then you have the old school side that not only are you wired that way for so long, but you build a tolerance to not necessarily pain, but to the intensity, where, you know, my level of 10 on an intensity scale wouldn't have, it evolves over time. So we almost become desensitized to it, I think. Training to failure.
Oh, yeah. Your definition of
get what I'm
failure
saying?
now is different than it was 15 years ago, you know?
Exactly.
You can, and I think that works to your advantage, though. You know, we're talking a lot to Scott Stevenson on the topic, and you do hear more and more people saying it now. You know, three plus years ago, if we were talking about reps and reserve, all of us in the old school were like, screw that idea. You know what I mean?
Yep.
We're like, you know, there's no sense. You got to learn how, you got to take it to failure. And I think that what we were getting at is you have to learn to take it to failure, and that's something you have to keep redefining. We had Hunter on one of the podcasts a few weeks ago, and he said, listen, if you're capable of pushing it hard, then you need to do that as long as you can. You like 7 years of like just going hard to extreme failure. It's gonna take that so that you even can understand what a rep and reserve is, you know? Agreed.
But then I even go so far as to say, is there the potential for more growth not training to failure? And I'm gonna give you an example. The one thing that has stood out since my show, and understand this is only 10, 12 weeks. We have the post-show rebound, we got calories going up, but I'm TRT. And I have to, based on the comments, TRT or TRT plus? What's your TRT look? It's TRT. It's TRT at a 250 milligrams of testosterone cypionate. It's TRT. It's not plus.
I call that plus.
What I have seen.
Are you in range? Are you in range?
What I've seen, and this is what surprised me, because my hamstrings are not a main focus to me.
Okay.
It's not like something I'm going to go in and I'm going to pound and go, man, I don't have any hamstrings. What I have found is, since I have laid back, and we're talking years here, I sometimes look at the stack when I do leg curls and I go, you know what? That is 9-year-old weight. Like, why? And then I go, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go a little bit heavier today, or I'm going to go harder, or whatever. And I still end up failing right around that 10 rep mark. I can't go any heavier. It feels like my hamstrings are going to rip off. So since the show, I have pulled back and I'm not training to failure. And literally, I'm hitting numbers on a leg. And I know it's a leg curl, but it's still a good example because it's not a primary focus of mine to bring this area up. All I'm doing is sets of 10. And I just work up. Once I hit 10 and I'm barely getting 10, I stop there. I might even fall back for 1. I'm done. My poundages are going up better than any other exercise, and everything else is going up too, obviously, post-show. But it's going up so dramatically that I haven't done these numbers on leg curls for 15 years probably.
Really?
So that's, again, then you know your brain makes a note, or should, damn, what if I do this for quads? Like, why would this be any different? Even though different muscle groups can be, you know, sometimes will need to be trained differently, some with more intensity than others. But it's enough that it's got my brain, you know, I'm thinking. And I'm following this as much as I can with any of these other, even pulling back to chest. Of all the muscle groups that the viewers would have a hard time pulling back with, competitor or not competitor, it's going to be chest. If you train one muscle group the hardest, it's usually chest. Failure is pretty black and white. You either get it or you don't. Back, not as much. Might be a little less range of motion. You're not pulling back as far.
Yeah.
But you can keep. You can count 2 or 3 reps. It might not be full. Things like that. But with chest, you can't do that. So pulling back on chest, it has done the same thing. I don't have the shoulder issues. I don't have any rotator cuff irritation. There's a lot going on in the recovery. HRV, sleep score. Just general information. My knees aren't sore. Now, I had the knee injury before. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, 55-year-old knees that they just ache. I get up off the couch and I do a couple of these and then I push off on my knees. Just not because I have to, but because it makes it less achy.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it's got me thinking. And I just think it's an important question, because if I'm looking at this or reevaluating this, other people should probably be doing the same thing.
Yeah. What do you think, Andrew?
I'm thinking about last night. I went to the gym, and there was a guy probably 22, 23, and I watched him, and he was doing squats, and he had to have been 8 sets of 10 with the same weight.
Okay.
Just barreling himself, like busting his ass. And I'm sitting there going, wow, that's amazing. And then what does he do? He puts the bar on the ground, and he does like 6 or 8 sets of deadlifts with
My
3
man.
or 4 plates. Yeah. And
Wow.
so where I'm going at with this is, I think he probably doesn't have social media. He probably doesn't go on YouTube. Only thing he understands is, if I keep working harder, I'm going to keep getting better. And I'll tell you what, I would put my money on him being a better bodybuilder in 5 to 10 years than someone who is over analyzing reps in reserve. Am I working too hard? Am I stressing my system out too much? You guys get where I'm going with that?
I don't disagree with that, and that's why my brain is programmed the way it is.
Yeah.
But when I see that progress, once you establish that level of intensity, then I just don't know.
Here's my caveat, though. Okay.
Okay.
He was 22, maybe 23, maybe 24 tops, right?
Yeah.
I don't think a 35, a 40, 45 or older guy can do that same thing and expect to get those types of results. So what
Or
I'm saying
a guy,
is,
let's say the same guy who's like 4 weeks out from his show. You know what I mean?
that's where I'm going with that. It's time and place, and
Yep.
it's all about where you are in your life, I think. And so I think in some ways, and maybe we're at fault by being a podcast talking about bodybuilding, training, drugs, all that kind of stuff. Are we over-educating people to the point to where they're forgetting about the number one factor, and it's hard work? Because the guys in the 60s, the guys in the 70s, the guys in the 80s, internet wasn't even invented, and they somehow found a way to develop some amazing physiques just by knowing, if I work a little bit harder. And they didn't need devices like HRVs and phones and Fitbits and stuff to tell them that they were busted up for the day. They woke up, they got out of bed, and they said, shit, I can't train today because I beat my...
It's what Scott Stevenson calls brain candy. You know,
Yeah.
there's like, it's great to have that brain candy. And that's like mainly what Muscle Minds is.
Yeah.
Like, we'll talk about like, can an NSAID change your progress? Let's look at these studies. And at the end of the day, the answer is like, just use common sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, that's where I'm trying to go with that, is that let's apply more common sense. Let's rely less on the what ifs. Like, yeah, all this data is great. In my mind, when I'm coaching people, that makes up maybe 20% of the decision making in my process, because at the end of the day, I know we probably need to keep working harder to get you into shape, or to get you to that growth, or to get you to that next summit of, you were 197 pounds at your last bodybuilding show. 2 years from now, you want to be 210. I don't think it's going to be devices. I don't think it's going to be saving all these reps. I don't think it's going to be calculating this and that. I think it's, at the end of the day, it's going to be work hard, sleep hard, rest when you need to, and progressively eat. I still think it's, maybe that's a little too old school, but I'll tell you what, it's worked for the majority of bodybuilders that built a physique, in all seriousness.
Well, and I think that's why it's so convincing. We've been around for a long time. We've seen more than this generation so far as experience. Maybe not the ability to access information and experience, but our own experience we've seen. And with our clients, that adds to it as well, 10, 20, 30 times, 40 times over. But I think what it also does is, and this is kind of where I sit right now while I'm trying to figure it out. Initially, and the 22, 24-year-old guy in the gym is a good example of this. You have to know where that threshold is. You have to... You can't come into this endeavor, into this sport, and be holding back, because you don't know what that threshold is.
Yeah.
So build to the threshold, learn what intensity, because I still say there's intensity of effort and then there's intensity on the targeted muscle. And I think they're two different things.
Yeah.
One has to be very targeted. The other one is just on the outside. It's just effort. It's that visual thing. You don't always visually see a seasoned competitor or a seasoned bodybuilder what that intensity is from outside. So you have to try to figure, I mean, it's internalized. It may not be and
Here's a prime
and shit in
example.
your pants.
How many times have you taken a younger bodybuilder who wanted to train with you at the gym, and you're like, I'm going to bust this kid up, and I know it's going to hurt me. I'm going to be dying on the inside, but I'm not even going to show him breaking a sweat.
Right.
I'm not going to make a noise. I'm going to make it look like this is just a lax workout for me, and he's going to walk away knowing I got dominated today. Because I'll tell you, as someone, I used to love doing that, and honestly, I think that progresses you as a bodybuilder, as a we'll say middle of your career towards the end. That those are the workouts that you really push, because you're like, well, I'm trying to show him what he should be doing to progress to get to where I'm at.
A lot of my workouts had been like that for a long time. Guys that I worked with, maybe I had, even sometimes it was like 2 more years of experience than them, right? Yep. And I'm showing them stuff in the gym. So like, you have to have the best, like you can't slack, man. You got to be the example. And when you're that guy, dude, oh my gosh, it's a lot of extra work in the gym. It really, I think, helped me for sure, man. There's no question. I'm with you 100% on that.
Yeah.
But I think finding that threshold, I think that's why that's important.
Yeah.
Being able to, because again, we become desensitized. If we get to the level of 10 and we stay at the level of 10, we become desensitized. We're essentially, then the 10 becomes an 11. The 11 becomes a 12. So I guess what I'm trying to relate to people is my 10 or my 12, I'm pulling back to a 10 by taking it close to failure, but not necessarily to failure, or even further than that, forced reps, things like that, rest, pause. Now, are those things effective? They're effective and can be very effective then if you are dramatically decreasing things like volume and or frequency. So again, it obviously it's very individualized. Some would argue, and I argue, I'm 55. Is my recovery ability not what it was when I was 30? Of course
Probably
it
not.
is.
Yeah.
So for me then to pull back to what might be my 10 or my 9, maybe allowing that recovery, because I mean I have to explain why all of a sudden I'm significantly stronger with these types of, and then there are other times where you pick up that same weight and it's you get to rep number 3 and you don't think you're going to hit 5 and you end up banging 12 of them and they're flawless. I mean, you could, your reps could be graded on a forum like ours. They'd be like, oh man, it's versus I'm at 3, I can't do any more. I got 4. I got 5. That type of thing. So there's a lot to unwrap there. My point is this is an important question to ponder, because again, it weighs out the recovery versus the work ethic and the actual effort. And I do think that everyone has a point, whether they're seasoned or they're not, where you go past that ability to recover, and it doesn't matter the work you can do. We can always do more work. That's just a matter of sucking it up.
Yeah.
But are you recovering from it? So I'm benefiting by pulling back a little bit right now. But if you looked at my training, you wouldn't be like, oh, he's training like a pussy.
Yeah.
What's this thing, Andrew, you just sent me?
So that's, if you throw it up on the screen, this is something me and John came up with for the Mountain Dog training programs years ago. And if you click on the links, which obviously our listeners can't, but if you ever bought one of John's programs, you can click on it and it gives you an example of what these sets look like from John doing them or one of his clients doing them. But it's basically a rate of perceived exertion flow chart going from 6 all the way to 13. So a warm-up weight where you can get like 15 reps, 20 reps with, that would be like a 6, right? A reps and reserve set of where you could get 2 to 3, maybe 2 more reps. That's like an 8 and a 5, 8.5. Okay. We put 10 as you went to failure with perfect form.
Oh, so, this is a good.
Yeah. Mechanical failure, perfect form, that like if someone like John or Scott Stevenson or Dave Tate was watching you, they would say that was a good set. That was perfect form. You stopped right at 10 reps or whatever. You did the reps exactly. Yeah. And then we came up with, you went to failure with loose form. So I would say this is more of like, say the Branch Warren style of training, because I definitely consider his form to be on the looser side, but no one can say he's not training well or hard because he's training like an animal, right? The form, there's just a little bit more body English there, right?
Well, that even says after perfect reps completed. So that's like,
true.
You nailed that 10, right? And then I've got a little bit left in me, but I can't do it. It's almost like forced reps in a way. You know what I mean?
It is, yeah. It's like, okay, you get done perfect set of curls, right? And then let's say you get to that 11th rep and you're just doing a little bit of oomph, a little bit of body English to keep it moving, right? Yeah. Or like your rows, maybe now you're engaging just a little bit of core rotation to get that dumbbell to keep moving on a dumbbell row. And then like a 12 or a 13, a 12 would be like using a high intensity, like let's say you did a set of 10 to failure and then you're adding in 10 partial reps out of the stretch position, or you did a set of 10 and then you got a few more loose reps to a second area of failure, and then you added in a static hold or something of that nature. And then the 13 was reserved for very infrequently. It's like once in a while you're doing something that's just so crazy. Like let's say okay, here's a great example. This is one I love to do with people. You guys are familiar with the Bulgarian split squat drop set of death, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I like to take that idea and apply it to, say, the hack squat or the leg press, right? So let's say you're starting with, I don't know, like 4 plates on a hack squat, and you're getting 8 reps. Then you're going to drop it down to just above the lowest position. You're going to have your partner push down on the side to add even more resistance as you push up as hard as you can. So you're in an 8-second static hold. Okay.
Oh God.
Then they pull a plate. 8 more reps, repeat the static hold. Pull 1 more plate, 8 more reps, static hold. And if you can still flex your legs, you're going to try to do it one more time with just 1 plate, again with that static hold. That would be an ape shit type set. That's like, you can't do that every single week and expect to recover and progress. And you can't do multiple ape shit sets every time you go to the gym throughout the course of a week. Like, you couldn't do the same thing for your chest the day later. You couldn't do the same thing for your back a day later. That's where you run into recovery issues. But that's also where the wisdom of training comes in. Like, if you were to do something like that on legs, okay, maybe my next workout, like a chest shoulders workout, is going to be a little bit more tame. I'm going to probably stick to that 10, maybe 11 in terms of the RPE, but I'm not going to do any crazy intensity, high intensity techniques, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's important. And as you mentioned, I think that it's something that we have to constantly negotiate, It's like based off of where I'm at. It could even be, I look at my own life and I ask myself, like, okay, where was I with work today? Like when I worked for the pop company, I had like super busy days. And some days it was like, hey, I know that this isn't going to be the best day to push as absolutely hard as I can because of all the other physical stuff I already had to do. Or my sleep wasn't good for whatever reason. I only got 5 hours last night. I always get 7.5. Mm-hmm. Today's probably not the day that I'm going to push to my absolute hardest. Or, John, I know you're watching right now when you're 5 weeks out from a bodybuilding show. I got to tell you, so this is a conversation that I'd been having, and great guy. In fact, we did a physique critique of him. He was the guy who, Andrew, you said, he was already looking ahead. I think we were like 8 weeks out, really beautiful shape, and he's going to do incredible. Thing is, he has a very physical job. And we were talking this past weekend, and he wanted to start cutting his training back and showing up less frequently to the gym because he's like, man, I'm just getting so wrecked. And we look at his training, and the training is like everything to hard failure.
Yeah,
everything.
Supersets and
Well, we cut out the supersets like at the beginning of the prep, but still, I mean, this dude, his Skip, you were talking about like the difference between like your 10, your new 10 is now your old 12. You know what I mean? Like as you get, he's got some intensity. And I think just this year alone, he's redefined what intensity is. So he's still trying to push to that level. And now we're only a few weeks out from the show, and he's extremely lean, and he's moving like 50-pound, 100-pound pipes all day long at work. So crazy. It's like, you gotta redefine that stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important that, man, you know what it is with bodybuilding, because this is something too, guys, that I've had to work really freaking hard at this. When I had gotten sick in 2021, I was at my all-time strongest ever. I was at my all-time biggest ever. And there were a lot of things that worked for me. And although I had done all sorts of other things through bodybuilding that worked for me before, after getting sick, what did I think I needed to do to get a good workout? I thought I needed to do the exact same things I did as before I got sick, because that's what had been working for me. And as smart as I am, and as much as I can help other people, it really took it wasn't just the stepping back, but it's the connection that we have to what we think we're supposed to do versus what we can actually, benefit from. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's it's always evolving. So just because what worked for you yesterday or last week or last year doesn't mean that that's the thing that's going to work for you today, you know? And I think the better we can get at recognizing that, the more we can have those really freaking hard days to failure and also be able to know when to pull back. It's a middle ground, right? Like it's both. I think the answer is both, you know?
Agreed. And I think what it is, I think the reason that it's difficult too is because when you're doing the actual workout, you don't get to assess it right away. You have to wait to be able to assess. It's not like, well, I just did this work, I just got paid for it, so now I can assess. You have to then go back and go, okay, am I doing the same? Okay, what I'm doing is working. I got to make sure that I continue exactly what I'm doing. There is that lag time between doing the work and being able to have the time to assess whether it's working or how well it's working.
And it could take time, weeks even, you know, before you can really start to even catch on. Yeah.
Agreed.
One thing I saw in the comments, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
I saw a podcast. This is from Gaetano. I saw on a podcast this afternoon about Phil Heath training, and people says he never goes to failure, same as Jay. But have you evaluate his connection with the muscle? He totally understands that having a good amount of good reps and mechanical tension is better than taking a failure. That probably causes too much fatigue and inflammation to recover from, so it costs more than the earns. So one thing I want to say about Phil Heath is that I don't think he trained hard. I don't care.
Well, I know he didn't because I watched him.
You've seen it. But, I mean, I've seen
years.
A lot of videos, and usually people turn it on for the videos. And I remember watching videos
Good point.
of half to 3/4 rep squats and being like, this is what this guy does for his leg workouts? And my point is that obviously what he did worked. He became the best bodybuilder of a generation for 8 to 10 years, right? So I'm not shitting on that. He did what it took to develop the physique. And who knows, if someone said, hey, you could do half reps and your physique would be better, would I do it? Probably, you know?
No
but
question.
I just don't think he's a good example of a hard trainer is what I'm getting at. Like, I would put Jay Cutler way higher than Phil Heath in terms of hard training, because Jay did full range of motion. Jay pumped hard. He did a lot of volume. You could physically see him working hard. Heath, I don't know.
Well, remember, Jay is the one who pulled Phil back. He pulled him aside when he was dumbbell pressing and be like, bro, we know you can do the 170s. It's no problem. But if you're going to stay in this game for the long term, you need to be pressing 130s. I mean, this just doesn't make any sense. Yeah. So then the argument is, well, they're genetically gifted. They can get away with that. But if you look back at Phil's career as far as injuries, it wasn't there. He didn't have those major injuries that everybody else deals with. Yeah. Let me just add this story real quick. I'll be super fast about it. But back when we were recording the longevity DVD, it was at Armbrust Pro. My wife did a lot of the filming. We're back in the leg room, and we're doing something. And I told Melissa, I said, don't get Phil in the frame because, I don't want to make it look like I'm, riding his coattails or trying to take advantage of, that's Phil, even though he was a friend of mine. And I could have asked him, but I'm just like, I don't want to deal with that or be accused of it. Yeah. So the camera comes on, all of a sudden we hear, I'm like, what the fuck? And I notice it's Phil. And my brain is like, Phil, you don't ever, like, he doesn't train like. And then it occurred to me, he knew the camera was on, and it's the only reason he was doing it. It just made me laugh because being alongside him all those years, and this isn't a knock on him.
Well, it is.
Greatest physique. I mean, do what you have to do. No, I got other things to knock him about, but not his physique. He was able to dominate from the first time he stepped on stage, till he all the way through. So there's nothing to take from him there. Yeah. I would train the same way, I admit it. And it wasn't that he didn't train hard. Don't get me wrong. But if you put his level of intensity next to 95% of the people, that want to get and will never get a pro card or even compete successfully at the national level, it's day and night. He never carried a water bottle. I would have conversations with him sometimes while he was in the middle of a back session where I'd be like, bro, I got to finish training. Like, I love you, but I got to finish training.
And he's probably in prep for the Olympia. And you're like, dude, don't you need to get back to your set? Like,
it's just crazy. It's just crazy what some people can get away with. And then we look at it and go, well, that's not fair. Well, not much in life is fair. It just is what it is.
I would say Heath was a very pump and squeeze bodybuilder.
No question.
Versus a hard trainer.
No
Right?
question.
I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. So to answer the guy's question, was there more, like, was he able to generate the intensity necessary? Of course he was. It's a no-brainer. But at the same time, was he able to generate a level of intensity higher than the rest of us? Maybe based on more muscle mass. Maybe based on the way he was set up, that the contractile force was so strong and the response. It's a guess. It's really
It comes
a guess.
down to simple genetics. He was meant with a little bit of stimulus, the right drugs, the right food, to look the way he did.
Yep.
And the rest of us, we're not. The rest of us are pretenders. We're forcing something that the body doesn't want.
Right.
And keep in mind, he also never used insulin or tren. So there's that.
Yeah, and I go on record as saying I don't know that he never used insulin. I know that firsthand that he did not use insulin when I was friends with him, and that was well into his. Matter of fact, he started using GH only like what 3 or 4 shows. He was 3 or 4 shows into the being a pro, and then he jumped up quite a bit in one of those shows. He put on, I don't know, 16, 18 pounds of stage weight, something like that, 15 pounds. And that was when he had gone to growth. I never knew him as taking insulin, but I also ended up moving. We had a fallout and we weren't friends anymore. So I don't know what he did after that. That's just speaking for me. So I don't know if he did it after that or not.
Studies show creatine doesn't just fuel your muscles, it fuels your brain. Research links creatine to improved memory, focus, and mental clarity, especially while under stress. It helps reduce mental fatigue, supports learning, and may even protect long-term brain health. I order my creatine from True Nutrition. Use code THINK at checkout to get 10% off and support this podcast. Power your body and your mind with True Nutrition creatine. By the way, this is my actual morning routine, mixing 15 grams of creatine into my oats. No flavor, no texture. And hey, since I got married, we store it in this fancy jar so it doesn't look like my wife lives with a bro. But hey, if you're single, just leave it in the bag on the counter. It's totally fine. All right, let's get into some listener questions. We got a bunch of them. Guys, if you want to take part in the next show, then definitely comment below, plus all your comments and likes, all that stuff. It helps to boost our programming up, and we can use all the help that we can get. If you're new here, we'd love to have you along for all our shows, so hit the subscribe button, the bell, and all of that. Adrian asked us over on Patreon, specifically for this show. He says, should men and women train differently? Rep ranges, rest periods, or is it the same stimulus equals growth? Thanks.
I mean, anatomically, very similar. Hormonally, slightly different. I mean, if you read Lyle McDonald's book, I think it's called The Woman's Book. It's a pink book. He would say yes. But then again, I don't know him for putting out bikini figure wellness champions. You know, I think he was writing a book based off some science. But no, I don't think necessarily they should train different in terms of, if we're talking rep ranges, intensity, range of motion. I don't think they should train different. Now, it depends on the division, right? Because we got divisions that are very glute heavy. So yeah, obviously you're probably not hitting your upper body 2 to 3 days a week. You're hitting your glutes 3 to 4 days a week, and you're doing very minuscule work in the upper body. Female bodybuilding, I would say it's very interchangeable with male bodybuilding programs. Right. I don't think there's a difference. Some might even say they don't see a difference in the doses some of the girls take. So, you know, no, I'm going to say.
Go ahead. I don't want to.
No, I'm just going to finish with, like, I don't think that we need to program them differently from a sets and reps standpoint. No.
Yeah.
I'll go back to the early 90s when I met my wife. Small garage gym. I know the owner, known him since I was a teenager. Great guy. But he had different workouts for male and female. And even at that time, I asked him, like, what do you do that for? And he laughed. He goes, because the women expect a different workout. They think they're going to wake up with man muscles.
Oh, yeah.
He said that's the
fear.
only reason. And I think that plays into what had continued to feed that antiquated ideology. When push comes to shove, the question is akin to saying, I think that when females do bicep curls, I think it hits their quads. Like if they do a bicep curl, it's going to hit their bicep just like it's going to hit mine or yours. So the training itself, I don't see the rep ranges. I don't see the movements. There are arguments about, like Danny LaMartina was just on the show. We recorded this last week. she made a good point that there are differences in hip structures, but she said there can be difference in hip structures with males too. So it's so individualized, yes, but it's not, oh, you're a male, oh, you're a female. It's, whether it be torso length, shoulder, width, clavicle width, whatever, how long your leg bones are. I think of the funny girl in the who's the heavy set girl that is she's super funny. And I can't rattle. I'm gonna screw it up. But she said, "I'll kick you in the face with my foot bone," and it was a viral clip from one of her movies. That's what it makes me think of. The leg bones, the size, whether you are made to squat structurally, it fits you. But that's not male, female. That's just an individualized type of thing. So hormonally, yes. Different divisions, yes. But I think that's where it ends.
Yeah. All right. I'm with you guys. I have nothing else to add. Glenn from Patreon says, 44 here, been on TRT and semaglutide, and have never run a real cycle. Starting my first cycle in October. 300 milligrams of test sip weekly for 10 weeks. Then planning on resuming TRT, 100 milligrams of Deca for joint health. So I'm guessing TRT, and 100 milligrams Deca for joint health. Question is, for my first cycle at my age, should the focus be growth, recomp, or just learning how my body responds? And is this low dose test bridge a smart way to support joints long term? I work as a delivery driver along with cardio and going hard in the gym. Just looking to see if that gives my joints some relief long term. Thanks, gang.
When he says recomp, the first thing that comes to my mind is, are you fat or not? Right? I mean, like we just showed a picture at the beginning of the show of Behrouz Tabani. There's no way he can recomp. He's already peeled, right? Yeah. So there's nothing to recomp. So the recomp question would be based off your conditioning. Do you need to repartition, drop body fat, and hopefully gain some muscle in the process before? So basically diet before you start trying to gain, right? So I would say, look at your conditioning. Are you happy with it? Are you not? Are you insulin sensitive? Are you in a position to grow? I mean, that's probably the number one question. Yeah. Even if someone was insulin sensitive, but they're carrying, let's say, a bunch of extra chub that they just don't need, my move would be, let's drop some first and let's get a cleaner slate to start with. So yeah, I'll let you guys tackle the PED part of it.
The PED part is tough. First, I want to agree with everything you just said because you encapsulated and put it all together in a nice, neat package. So that's cool, especially for someone who's as verbose as I am.
Skip would just be getting started.
Yeah, exactly. Just getting warmed up. As far as the PEDs, though, I don't like, and I wonder what you guys think. I don't like the idea of taking gear to maintain joint. What does that mean? Maintain joint
health.
I think a lot of people put the joint health with inflammation and itis. I'm not saying old man itis because I don't know how old he is, but
44. Your
joints are. What is meant by that? I guess I don't really understand. So where to go with it? Go ahead, Andrew. If you have.
Well, I'm just trying to think about. I think what he's trying to say is to support joint integrity, knowing that he's going to be lifting more poundages than he has in the past, and maybe he's had some tendonitis or some. We'll call
he's got a physical job.
Yeah, and he's got some achy joints and stuff. So maybe just to feel a little bit better with trying to train a little harder.
Gotcha. And I think that the gear in the cycle itself, I don't want to say no matter what it is, but is it not going to help to increase recovery? And then you may not be as achy, things like that. So I don't know if the specific compounds matter a whole lot. Coming back to TRT, and this is, I don't want this to make it sound like I'm dodging the answer, or dodging the question by not giving a direct answer, but a lot of that is personal comfort level of whether to stay on TRT, whether to come off. That's a tough one that I prefer that the client, the client has a lot more say in what they're doing versus coming to me as a trainer. And as a trainer, I go, do this, take this. I want to sleep well at night, and I want the client to be 100% on board with what they're doing. So first question is he comfortable staying on and bridging?
He's already on TRT long term.
Okay, so he's not coming off, so that was done.
His main thing was like he plans on resuming TRT and also with that adding in the 100 Deca for quote joint health.
Yeah. And I think that's what I don't want to say take issue with, but
yeah,
I don't know that you're gonna. Well, I'll just say it. I don't think you're gonna notice anything on 100 milligrams of Deca, whether it comes to joint health or not. I said it. Yeah. Could, but I don't think this is gonna be a deal maker, deal breaker.
Yeah, if he has joint health issues, like what is the root cause of that? So, Deca is going to help with some level of inflammation, but what is causing that inflammation? Can we change that? I'm sure you guys are with me. There was a point, I bet that there was a time all three of us had done this. I can speak for myself and say I did. Leg press is load that fucker up with as many plates as I can. Sometimes even like wrap my knees and then get one rep, lock out. You know what I'm saying? And then drop it back down. When I say drop it, just like let it back down. You know what I mean? It probably wasn't that ugly, but you get what I'm pointing at. We lock out hard between these really heavy reps. If you were to take 2 plates off each side and not do those hard lockouts, then you're not going to deal with that same level of like pressure. You're not going to stack your joints. That would be my first thought is I would look at what you're doing in your training that is causing joint issues. Look at your work situation and what's potentially causing joint issues there. I think there's going to be overlap with a physical job, like getting forearm tendonitis if you're using your hands a lot, if he's got to stock things in his work truck, what can you do to improve that versus just going straight to something that's going to be an anti-inflammatory? It may work, but it's not what I would say I'd want to like live day in, day out on. As far as the cycle goes, I think he's good to go. 300 milligrams a test. I would consider that to be a mild cycle. If his TRT is like, say, 150 milligrams per week, and he wants to just kind of dip his toes in, get some additional benefits, you're going to be able to grow muscle on that. Even in my thought too, I'm with you, Andrew, on the dieting side of things. Like, what's his composition? Like, does he need to lose fat? And I would say don't be afraid to try to do both things at once. Like, keep the protein high, but then adjust the carbs and the fats as needed to get the fat loss off. And that in that process, if he's not it's his first cycle, so he's probably not a massive guy. He probably can continue to like recomp and grow as he's losing fat, but make fat loss the priority if that's what needs to be, Let
me add one more thing too. So why not add the 100 milligrams of Deca in when he's starting his 300 milligrams of testosterone and then just cycle back the testosterone at some point and maybe cycle back the Deca as well.
All right.
If he's after like joint integrity and growth and fat loss and all the above, I guess, well, I'm just trying to, like, what is his TRT at? Is it like 125 tests a week or something like that?
I would imagine
he's on legit. TRT right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So something around 125 mgs a week. I guess what I'm saying is I don't think it's going to be wow when he bumps to 300 of testosterone. I think he's going to get a little bit more results. I think he's going to feel a little bit better. His test is obviously going to go up, but I don't think it's going to be like, oh wow, this is what the guys are talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, I guess the question is, could he do more? You're saying yes. And I'd agree with you. I'd agree with you on that.
Yep. Like, I guess may have misunderstood when when we're talking about. I thought it was just he was asking questions just specifically gear related. So when you went to training, I'm like, well, hell yeah, that's you're going the training route. I'm like, I must have misunderstood. I really thought he was asking specifically only about gear.
Yeah,
that's why I was like,
I think he needs a coach. I think he needs a coach.
It wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys this, just as kind of a secondary question. So, we see a lot of talk about what a low dose or what an early cycle would be. And I do think that you can get a good cycle out of 300. And the better you are with your training, everything else, the better you're going to do. That said, are you going to get more out of 500? Absolutely. And I wouldn't have a problem with that either. So let me ask you this. Cost to benefit on 300 versus cost to benefit on 400 or 500 test. I mean, health markers, you guys tell me. Like, I feel like you're not going to mess yourself up. It's not like we're going to the point where like now you have a bunch more complications, right?
Yeah, you're not jumping to Dallas McCarver lab work by going from 300 to 500 mgs a test. You know, what can you expect over, say, 15, 20 weeks of a cycle like that? Yeah, your HDL is going to come down a little bit. You know, your LDL is probably going to pop up a little bit.
But how much more, though? You know what I'm saying? It's like, for me, I feel like it's not that big of a difference between 300 to 500.
The majority of people, it probably wouldn't be a difference, especially if he's younger. We know that those blood markers typically get worse as you get older, so there's that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if he's doing, you know, let's just say he's adding cardiovascular work in, he's taking a few more health supplements, he's cleaning up his diet because he mentioned the recomp. I think there's a lot of value in that, with offsetting the negatives that you're doing with maybe a typical American diet, or even a guy that casually goes to the gym but then stops and eats, you know, a fast food type restaurant. I'm not even talking about like McDonald's. I'm just talking like even a Chipotle, which or some of these other restaurants which do use more seed oils and stuff like that in their products, putting you in the side of inflammation, hurting your cholesterol a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, I think dive into the bodybuilding lifestyle. Don't be afraid to increase your doses a little bit. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Did I tell you my results, Andrew, on the calcium score?
I thought you did last time.
Okay. Yeah, I got a 0, 0, 0, 10.5, 0. So for a guy that smoked as a teenager and into my 20s, for a guy that had, you know, I'm in recovery, I lived a rough early life and then ran gear. I mean, you mentioned the term at one point. You're like, I really think that diet has a big role in these health markers. I mean, in our health. And I think that shows, man, because I have had a really good diet, you know?
Well, here's the example, because I would always do my labs like a week out from a show, expecting, especially the first time I did it, expecting the absolute worst situation. And were they great? No, they weren't perfect, but they were not nearly as bad as they would have been if I was in the off season. High calories, a lot more shit food, we'll say, just in terms of the calories, and less cardio. My labs have been a lot worse in that situation. So what I'm saying is, I think there is I know there is. There's a health improving effect of cardiovascular, clean eating, calorie restriction, supplements when you're taking high levels of PEDs. I'm not saying it's like an equalizer, but I'm saying it lessens the damage.
Yeah. I know when I do curls, sometimes my elbows, both of them, they'll crunch. And I thought, something's not right. But then I'm like, it's probably just the level of calcium in my arteries. It's just kind of, could tell I work it out, you know, and then it's smooth.
You know, it'd be interesting. Ask your doctor, or, you know, the cardiologist, Scott, because you stopped smoking, what, 20-something years ago?
Yeah, it's been some time now.
Yeah. I guess I would want to know, in his experience, or maybe we should talk to a cardiologist, if someone smoked for, say, 5 years and they're 20 to 25s, and then they quit, and then now they're 45, what impact did that 5 years of smoking have, if any, on their current calcium score or their current arterial health? Like, is there any?
I wonder what would my calcium score have looked like in 2017 when I finished my last contest prep. You know what I mean? Yeah. Is there any difference between? I don't know. You know. Yeah. I'll check it again in a year, though. I'll see it again in a year and see, just to see, because I'm implementing all the supplements Dante suggested, and be curious if I get it lower. What do you guys think of this one? Question: can EQ contribute to gyno? I'm sensitive to gyno when it comes to a lot of compounds, but I do just fine with testosterone alone, up to 350 milligrams per week. I have not gone higher than that without an AI. I would like to push to 750 test and 400 EQ. I do know that EQ lowers my E2 some. What do you guys think? I know on paper EQ should not cause gyno, but do you guys have much experience?
I have a lot of experience with EQ. I think
you're talking to 3 guys that know a lot. We've done a lot of EQ. We've done a lot of EQ.
Here's the thing: I mean, EQ, it's not going to contribute estrogenically to gyno, right? Could it influence progesterone pathway? Possibly. We have seen some research with that, but it's not going to be estrogen related. So I would get a full panel done. I would look at progesterone, I would look at prolactin, I would look at the effect of EQ on those hormones, not just estradiol.
And I would say that it's far less likely than it is likely that compound is going to cause any issues with gyno. Could it? It always could, but it's not likely.
Would it be the testosterone you're taking?
Sure.
Maybe your EQ dose, I don't want to say this the wrong way, isn't high enough to counteract. You have what I'm saying? Like maybe.
That's what I was thinking, kind of balance them out a little bit more if you were concerned, you know?
Exactly. That's where I'm going with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Instead of 750 test, 400 EQ, what about like 5 and 5 or 5 and 6?
6 and 6.
Yeah. Or 6 and 6. Yeah. I'd be down with that.
I've rarely seen somebody with a 1-to-1 ratio of test and EQ come back with high estrogen levels.
I've
9
seen
times
low,
out of 10.
you know?
I was going to say 9 times out of
low,
10, it'll be on the lower side on a 1-to-1 ratio. But maybe 1 out of every 30, I might see someone with slight, and when I say high, I mean slightly out of range, not like 100 or 200, slightly out of range.
Yeah. I never figured that out when I was using a lot of EQ because I always ran my tests significantly higher, I don't know about you guys.
I have a client who just increased his estrogen levels up to 4. I thought that was pretty good.
Up to 4?
Yeah. I thought that was
from what, 0?
From 2. Yeah, from 2.
How?
I figure we're going in the right. I'd have to dig into it, to be honest with you.
Was he using a lot of AIs?
What's that?
Was he using AIs?
No.
Oh,
I know, right?
So he has
there's
very
a lot
low
of
aromatase
over-dieting.
activity.
There's a lot of over dieting prior to him coming to me. Great dude, fellow horologist. He definitely outplayed me on the timepiece game. We were going back and forth weekly. We'd show each other, a different watch every week. And then I, ran out because I only
You
had
ran out
4.
of watches.
Yeah. I only had 4. That lasted 4 weeks. And he put up a 78 Daytona that just, I was like, damn, dude.
It's a good watch, I take it, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was impressive. 6223, I think. But it's, because they have so many different, I can't even keep track of the Rolex market and what means what. I have to look them up. But anyway, the point is he's improving. But I think that is more, is related more to do with chronic dieting. Because as we fill him out, he's looking better and better, and this guy's ripping through calories. But the point is that the diet can play into those things too, to some degree. It's certainly not the compounds he's on right now, because we're literally trying to find a way to increase the estrogen, which is always fun because there are ways to increase the estrogen. So
when your number of watches is higher than your number of estrogen,
then your estrogen, yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I throw a little mint in, like 5 milligrams.
That's where we're going.
Okay.
Yeah, a couple times a week, or even some cases like 5 milligrams a day for some people. And that typically, they love how they feel with it. And
what brought it up from 2 to 4? D-ball.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay.
I thought it would do more than that.
How much?
I was like 2 to 4, bro. I'd have to check. It's not anything terribly egregious. I want to say it's like 25 a day, something like that. 50 milligrams of D-ball, something like that.
Hey, on a note of estrogen control, Jared asked us, on average, how much do you see DIM and calcium diglucarate lower E2 from your coaching experience? Thanks. Love the show.
Moderate, very, very moderate amount. Like I would say it works like 10% as good as well as a AI, maybe.
And I can't comment because while you were reading the question, I was trying to run down in my brain the compounds that he's using, and I can't.
It's okay, Skip. You don't use these supplements anyway, so you.
I'm over here thinking over here, and ADD doesn't work. That
I've
way.
seen calcium diglucarate have a more powerful effect. I think that a lot of that too has to do with like how healthy somebody's processing is already. Yeah,
their liver.
What's their liver situation like currently? And if they're not good at the glucuronidation process, then adding that in can make a massive difference. Especially, I'd say it's good on TRT. Like if you're one of those guys that you think that you're a high aromatizer, and this has kind of been my tirade for the last 3 years now. If you think you're a high aromatizer on TRT and you're on a legit TRT and you still have high estrogen, then that's a great place for looking at something like calcium deglucarate. On the other hand, if you're running a gram a year, let's get you on some Aromacin, you know?
That's the other thing I was going to add, though, is I would say the DIM and the calcium deglucarate work most efficiently when your liver is working really well. So make sure if you are going to use something like that, you've run some type of liver detox, your liver's working really well. It's helping you recycle estrogen better anyway. You're getting better T4 to T3 clearance. When your liver's working better, your body's working much better.
100%, man. All right. Let me see if we got maybe a couple more here. It's an off-topic question we could get to, but I have a different off-topic question to end this episode with. Is 3 weeks enough to crash your test for testing low test in blood work to get TRT from my doctor?
It depends on what test you're taking, but absolutely.
He says, I was on 150 milligrams a week. So I guess he took that for 3 weeks.
Oh, wait, okay, wait, I'm sorry. Maybe because I thought the scenario was because I got a lot of guys that are on TRT that want to keep, they got a good prescription price and they just want to keep it. And then they do other stuff on the side. When we have to get them back into normal ranges, we will just stop their testosterone about 9 days out. And preferentially, we'll keep them on the other compounds they're on. Right. So there's still that inhibition feedback to the brain saying, don't start producing more testosterone. There's already androgens in the system. They show up, they test at 560, 600, they get their script, they're good for another year. Mm-hmm. So, but you're saying he crashed his natural testosterone with 150 in 3 weeks. Is that what the question is?
Well, he says, and maybe you're right, maybe he was on it, because he says, is 3 weeks enough to crash test before testing low test in blood work to get TRT from my doctor?
That's what I hear.
I was on 150 milligrams a week. So maybe you're right. He came off 150, and if I wait 3 weeks, will my levels be low enough?
Yes.
Yes.
In the majority of guys, yes.
Yeah.
And if you want to make sure that it's low, add another compound in.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I got one more. For fuck's sake, Scott. Why did you ruin the Larry Bird story?
That's awesome. Andrew's drawing a blank. He just looked around. Remember you were talking about.
Was I telling about Larry Bird stories?
Yeah.
You were going to tell us a Larry Bird story. I gotta redeem myself a little bit here, guys. we released those episodes in reverse, right? So we recorded with Ron. We recorded for an hour and a half. We literally did not answer a single question. We just bullshitted the entire time.
It was awesome.
Then we're like, it was a good show. All of our normal listeners, like our regulars, loved it. So when we came back, I was like, all right, we've got a topic. We've got a ton of questions to answer. We're like 5 minutes in to like finally answering some questions. And then Andrew's like, oh, Skip, before we were recording, you were asking me about something. You know, I just remember I got this story about Larry Bird. I look at the time. I'm like, we're 5 minutes into the show.
And you just said we need to stay on topic.
I was like, to do bodybuilding that day.
I looked like the dick. I'm sorry, guys. I was the teacher.
Did I tell the story?
You didn't, no. Because I was like, well, save it to the end, man. Let's get through some stuff.
Which means don't tell it.
We forgot.
I know.
Then we forgot.
I literally forgot.
Do you remember the story?
Oh, dude, I watched these Larry Bird reels like.
Oh, I thought it was like you saw him like Larry Bird was in town. He came to the bar. I thought it was one of those.
I think it was a trash talk. It was what we were talking about.
He was the king of trash talking and backing it up. No, I won't go into it. But like every day, you watch one thing of something, and it's like the logarithm knows like you like that. Oh, yeah. And I just start getting Larry Bird stories all the time now. And because I was a pretty good. He was before my time really as a basketball enthusiast, but I do like. There's something about the older guys that I just like because they had grit. They played harder. They played through injuries. They didn't sit out 40 games out of the year because they have a hangnail. And I just like the stories about those guys.
He was clunky, but he was clutch. Oh my God.
You got any word of the day, Skip?
Ooh, man, I haven't done one in a while. Go to something else real quick because it'll take me about 30 seconds.
Skip is wearing purple today.
Yeah. I'm waiting for the Barney jokes.
Yeah, nobody said anything. Neither of us.
I love you. You love
I think we're just
me.
used to his color coordination.
Yeah. If it wasn't purple, it'd be like yellow and yellow or orange
And
and
anybody
orange.
with kids who's older knows. I mean, right now, all I have to say is this: apples and bananas, and that will cue the subconscious. And anybody with kids who had kids who was relatively close to my age will have that song in their head for the rest of the day. Those were the videotape. You put in a videotape. We were the first generation, I think, that led to the kids, the kids being on their phones at young age and not looking around at anything else because we'd sit them in front of the TV. We'd want 30 minutes of, mom or dad time, and they would just sit there glued to the TV. Then it turned to Teletubbies and, all that type of shit. But anyway, yeah, I'm on my Barney kick.
Are we still filling for you, or you've got it now?
I am.
You can't talk while we're filling for you. Apparently,
much. I know.
Yeah. We got to.
Go ahead, you guys.
Go.
Yeah, it's here.
We'll just keep ripping on Skip for wearing a purple hat and a purple shirt to the show today.
Okay, here we go. Oh, I would have all these together. What I did was I put sometimes I'll get a bunch of that are the same thing. Like as an example, a horde.
Yeah.
We all know a horde is a large, or a passel, which is essentially a horde, large group of people, passel. But then we get into clouder. Clouder, if you have I have a clouder of cats.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. Cats. So then I went down the file, PHILE. I went down that rabbit hole one day and came up with like 100 different files. You're an astrophile. It's pretty self-explanatory. Astrology.
Okay.
But I'm an allurophile because I love cats. Andrew and Scott, you guys are cinephiles and they will say dogophile, but that's lame. Cinephile. So you're a lover of dogs. I'm a horophile, lover of fine timepieces. So I went down this rabbit hole. Anyway, Clouder's a group of cats. Mickle, same thing, large amount, but it's more British or let's see, Mickle.
A Mickle?
Yeah, Mickle. I had a whole bunch of them. I've got so many in here that I have a specific, how you have your different categories on your phone of pictures?
Yeah.
I've got it in there, but I can't get to it because it takes too much. While I'm talking, it takes too much attention to get to it. So I'm going back through all these pictures.
I think you got some good ones for us. Okay. I'll take a Mickle today. That'll be acceptable. Guys, we appreciate you tuning in. Thanks for watching as always. And if you haven't hit the like button, please do because it definitely will help us. And of course, go to teamskip.com to reach out to Skip and go to bodyberry.com to reach out to Andrew. Hit me up at mcnallydiets@gmail.com. Once again, check out True Nutrition, truenutrition.com. Use our code Think over there to get savings on all your basic bodybuilding supplements, including the Team Skip blend. And of course, thank you to everybody who shops in Canada at supplementsource.ca. You guys get great deals over there. I've seen things for like literally a quarter of the price because they're short dated. And Patreon, we got you covered, man. Thank you for being here. For another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear, we will see you soon.